And welcome to another edition of the Morning Briefing. I'm Jeff DeForest along with Mike Lubitz, a.k.a. now wants to be known by his wrestling name, everybody, Mr. Morocco. You'll get used to it. Took me a while to get used to Lubie and the voice and everything. And it's one of those acquired well, I guess, after a period of time, you start to say, what's wrong with having, a different type of style and approach to doing this sort of stuff. Lubie, I hope you're in good spirits today. I certainly am. And a very interesting evening of sporting activity. I was going back and forth between three different ball games and the two NFL games on, and we are immersed in pennant fever here. The Giants win the pennant. The Giants win a pennant. We don't know if the Giants are going to win it. We don't know if it's going to be the Reds. We're talking about that third wild card spot, which has created a fascinating dynamic to the last couple of weeks of the season for a lot of teams that otherwise would be considered bag ladies, also runs, and schleppers. In
This
this
is called
case,
baseball. To those, they heard wild card. You know how NFL's wild card now?
yeah,
We're talking baseball, you youngins out there.
an ancient game that was played by a primitive society that had a couple of skulls and sticks. That was it. They had picked up baseball after they decided that soccer was too fucking boring.
Exactly.
So they stopped kicking the skulls around and they picked up a ball and a bat. That was it. No, yeah, it is an ancient game, but it's created a lot of excitement here around South Florida. I would imagine these other cities are equally immersed in this pennant fever that has taken place. So that was one of the ball games I'm trying to catch. Unfortunately, it was a miserable result for the Miami Marlins yesterday. As a Met home run, the Mets hopelessly out of it. One of the most disappointing teams in the history of Major League Baseball this year. All of that money. I mean, Steve Cohn spent his bar mitzvah money for anybody that he thought could help the team. He was acquiring, I mean, Rogers Hornsby from the grave. He was paying for the rights to. Incredible. Anything he thought would work, and it didn't. It blew up in his face, and it's unfortunate. At one time, I was a Met fan, having worked at Shea Stadium for many years, and growing up in New York, we defected from our longtime allegiance to the Yankees as soon as the Mets came on board because it was more fun to root for a bunch of hapless losers, wasn't it? Always like the underdog. We're always rooting for the underdog. Anyway, I kind of had a little bit of an epiphany. So I was thinking it's time to examine a little bit of my previous possible. I don't mean to get too far into the occult or too far out there, but the idea that you might have lived before is something else. Have you ever
Okay,
had that occur to you, Louie? And
sure.
it hit me after this, this Dolphins game against the New England Patriots,
Mm.
which, as we said, I mean, you're looking at Bill Belichick there on the sidelines now, and starting to think. We were talking about it yesterday, I believe, here on the show that he is aged like Obama did, where Obama comes in as president and he's literally shooting jumpers with Larry Bird. He's
100%.
making moves on Magic. And when he leaves, he looks like he literally had been locked in solitary in the cell next to Papillon in the movie Steve McQueen, where your teeth are falling out and everything. That's Belichick, haunted from the grave by Don Shula. But that being said, a testament to his brilliance, I think, is that the fact that he had the team in the game with a chance to win at the end, which is a fairly common occurrence in NFL games. So our teams are being badly outplayed and outclassed, outcoached, outmanned, and yet they're still somehow hanging around with even the women of prayer of getting into the ball game. And I was, struck by the fact that I was laying 3 points with the Dolphins, and if this goes to overtime, there's a distinct possibility that even though you had everything right about this ball game, you knew the Dolphins were a better team. You knew that they were going to be able to move the ball, whether they were running it, passing it, whatever it was. That somehow Belichick was going to put 12 guys on Tyreek Hill and take him out of the ball game and make it really prohibitive that you're going to have explosive plays throughout the game. But grind it out, well ahead. All of your logic was applicable. You should be feeling and just beating your chest, Luby. I was right about this one. You gambling gods. I
Yep.
was right about one. Yeah, you're ready to tell your bookmaker, don't be late at the graveyard on Monday. I want my money. I want my money, Jimmy. I want my money. And sure enough, comes down to this final play. Very debatable. What didn't they throw in there? You had an ex-Dolphin, as you were talking about, normally comes back to haunt this team.
Yep.
Mike Gesicki, a guy that seemed to show a lot of promise that people were sort of infatuated with here in town, and yet it became a mystery under Mike McDaniel, Mr. Nietzsche with cleats. What happened to this guy? All of a sudden, he's not even he's not even dressing for games.
Yep.
Guys in the stands there selling popcorn. Hey, popcorn here. And he's going to be the guy that comes back to haunt you. He laterals the ball off to a lineman, some fat slob named Strange, who is stumbling like Chuck Wepner in the 15th round against Muhammad Ali, the Bayonne pleader. And, of course, the inspiration for the Rocky movies. But nonetheless, he seems to have the first down. And then the next thing you see, you got a snowplow coming out onto the field there. And the Patriots are doing it again. They're finding a way to just, put an absolute dagger in your back. And as we were talking about, you're screaming. You're on your hands and knees to the gods of gambling. Don't fuck me, gods. I hate to keep coming back to this, but it haunted me all day yesterday. Don't fuck me, because it's happened in the past, and I was trying to figure out why. This happens from time to time. Maybe you guys that go to the racetrack, you're sitting there and you bet your birthday numbers. And in my case, it's 7-5. The 7 is out front by 11 lengths. The 5 has nothing in sight. Your friend starts screaming, "Nothing's coming, Deef.
Oh no.
Nothing's coming."
Oh, no.
And he may as well be screaming, "Come on, kryptonite,"
Exactly.
because you've been mushed. And then you start thinking, "Don't let the 3 fuck me. Don't let the 3 fuck me. Don't fuck me 3. Don't fuck me 3. Don't fuck me." And as they get to the wire, it's almost like you just had sex with the woman that you most despised in your lifetime. As you're like not feeling very good about the fact that you just got fucked. Unbelievable. So I go down to Hialeah, Lubie, and try to get to the bottom of all this. I saw Madame Selena.
Okay.
And what was great was right next door, literally, you could buy a suit in the duplex that she operates out of, and a gypsy woman. And she tells me that I actually, in a previous life, was a losing club fighter, which makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
That explains a lot.
I might have been Balboa. I may have even done some collecting down by the docks
The original Rocky.
while my career was spiraling to a point of non-existent, to where Apollo Creed himself had to come and find me in a book, as the most logical opponent to be the easiest possible of chumps that you could put into the ring to fight against. And that was it. I don't know. That makes some sense, the way I've lived my life, that I was a losing club fighter in a previous life. Now,
Makes
one
actually a lot of
guy, and
sense.
this,
Yeah,
go ahead.
'cause you never back down. You, no matter what happens, you
Yeah.
keep coming and coming.
I'm
Even
going to
when
give you
they're in
6
the
rounds.
stands.
Yes.
Even in the
6
stands
good
going,
rounds. And then
why is he still fighting?
in the eye, eventually ring physician, even if it was Flip Omansky, that guy out of Las Vegas that never stopped any fights. It didn't matter. The guy could be decapitated. He'd go, "Yeah, it looks like one more round, kid. One more round." Is he in a boxing Hall of Fame? I think he is. Flip Omansky,
Yeah.
the former Vegas ring physician. He was right there with the 3 boxing judges that we always reference, which it was like Jerry Roth, Dave something, and Chuck Giampa.
Yeah.
Literally, Keller, Ellen, Feliciano, and Ray Charles. Huh? What? I think that guy, he might be in a boxing Hall of Fame. But well, we did get to the bottom of something. We were exploring some pop culture earlier this morning on another show that we did, the Defo Show. You can find this, people, on South Florida Live is the name of our channel. And you'll be one of the 15 people or so that is acknowledging us on that particular platform. And that's why we're so happy to be here on No Filter, where Henry does such a nice job with the clips and everything. It's fantastic. So anyway, we often get a chance, and this was great because he blew off Oprah Winfrey to talk to us on our podcast, and is the great CBS and universally talented broadcaster Ian Eagle. So if you don't think Jim Nance is hearing footsteps, well, he's already out as the Final Four guy.
Exactly.
Because Eagle has been tracking in his wake there for the last several years. And you notice Nance is doing more of a comb over.
Yeah.
And he realizes that the components are in place, that he is losing it. And Ian Eagle is going to be the #1 voice of the NFL pretty soon. if he isn't already. So Ian is doing the Eagles, no, the Chiefs and Jacksonville game this past
Yes.
week.
Yes.
And, it's a premium game there. It was one of the 1 o'clock games in Jacksonville. Two teams that some people feel might. Is it really potentially an AFC championship matchup, Mike Lubitz? What do you
And the
think?
Jags won a playoff game last year. The Chiefs won the Super Bowl. So, yes, it's
It's
definitely
not out of
possible.
the question. All right. Two great quarterbacks. Trevor Lawrence, up and coming, really showed himself last year after being troubled and plagued by the fact that he was being coached by Urban. Do you have to throw it in there automatically? Urban fucking Meyer. Is that a necessity to just drop a parenthetical in there, fucking, when you're talking about Urban Meyer, or are we in the minority there among people that don't necessarily have particularly flattering things to say about Urban Meyer?
I don't think
And
we're
that's not
alone.
just from the Gator thing, but I mean, what a hideous tenure there with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Didn't even last the whole season. This guy,
Nope.
the owner loved him. Whatever you want to do, or Urban, a lot of people are fascinated by this guy. But Lawrence, clearly, I mean, compromised by the fact that Meyer was such a mess as a professional coach. Whether it was that at stage of his career where he was going to be a mess anywhere, I don't know. But that was a disaster, a catastrophe. And so last year looks great with Doug Peterson coming in there, the coach who was a former quarterback, and had done a nice job in his previous stop there in Philadelphia. Won a Super Bowl for the Eagles, so that was terrific. Yeah, a good ball game, and Eagle drops in there in the middle of it, a Travis Kelsey catch. Now the rumors have been out there that Kelsey and Taylor Swift have a thing going on.
Yes.
They have a thing going on, me and Mrs. Jones, right? So Taylor Swift is Mrs. Jones to Travis Kelsey. Who can you tell me one thing that Travis Kelsey isn't selling right now, Mike Lubitz?
That's a great question. He seems to be everywhere.
I saw him. I mean, he stooped to selling reverse mortgages already. Well, you know what? You don't have to move out of your house right away. And then they have the disclaimer that comes on. You may fall into disclosure. It's not in Hebrew. You're thinking, really? Kelsey's on that. He's selling Subway sandwiches. He's on some beer commercial.
He's on the State Farm with Patrick Mahomes, 100%. Yep.
I believe I saw him like with the guy from Morgan and Morgan there, with his arm around this ambulance chasing attorney who's on TV all day, saying that, hey, look, accident. This is the guy right here. Mesothelioma. Look, it did it in Hoss Cartwright, right? Merlin Olsen. Some cowboy. Anyway, yeah, he's selling everything. So Eagle in the broadcast, as Kelsey's making his touchdown catch, says, and Kelsey has found a blank space, which I wouldn't know this, but would you have known that was a reference to a Taylor Swift song?
In time, I didn't. What's weird is my wife is a huge Taylor Swift fan, so I should have. It's one of her biggest hits ever. But I give him credit because people like me who really don't know her, I had no idea that he did that.
Brilliant. Now, we have contended for years that Al Michaels wrote down somewhere, "Do you believe in miracles?" before he ever showed up at the rink there in Lake Placid to do that USA-Russian semifinal hockey game in, the 1980 Olympics.
80.
And that started a trend where everybody seemed to press for a signature call to, illustrate the spectacular nature of the moment. Now, you've had calls like that have come naturally, right? Where the Giants win the pennant. The Giants win the pennant.
Yeah.
And then, with Joe Buck, not Jack Buck, but Joe Buck. No, Jack Buck. Jack Buck was the father. Joe Buck is the guy that everybody thinks is so full of himself.
Douche.
He would be a guy that would be trying desperately to work in some kind of,
Yes.
clever saying, just so people could memorialize it, and make it a signature thing. But yeah, so it was Jack Buck who was saying, "I can't believe what I just saw."
Yes.
But that's because he was like blind in one eye and the other eye was like way out of whack, man. He didn't see it.
He actually didn't see it. He really couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, he's pressing. And now Michaels, I think, wrote that down. Do you believe in miracles? And you would have thought that he preconceived that an impossibility of the United States winning that particular game. They'd just been shellacked like 10-0 or something. Even with Gump Worsley playing goal for him in the previous game against the Russians at Madison Square Garden. Now, there's no reason to believe they would win. Do you believe in miracles? I think he wrote it down. Eagle says that he was familiar with Swift songs, and he sort of had a preconceived notion he might be able to work this in there. I think, he might have even had money on Kelsey to catch the first touchdown pass, although he wouldn't admit to that. But yeah, he Oprah's calling to talk to this man now. It's incredible how that has immersed him into pop culture fame forever, and is going to be up there with any call that's made at any time in the modern era. All of this brilliant work that this man has done, and one Taylor Swift song reference, but in the right spot, obviously, with the rumors that are out there about Kelsey and Taylor Swift keeping some fast company right now. And does that not loom as a possibility? Like I said, I mean, I'm surprised Kelsey isn't somehow going to seek the Republican nomination for president. Seems like too radical of a guy to be on that side of the fence, no?
I don't know where he leans, but he definitely seems to be everywhere. That call, but I just like that he worked it, whether he had practiced it or whatever he did, had it jotted down. It seemed a lot more natural than some of these other calls you're referencing. Like he threw it in there and then kept going. He didn't like set it up like he was trying. Ha ha! Here it comes. Like he just did it and kept going, and I appreciate him for that.
Yes, as he would be, subtly, brilliant in everything that he does, Iron Eagle. So it was great, and the clarification was there. It was not an ad lib that came flying into his head all of a sudden to associate the Kelsey, Taylor Swift relationship with this touchdown pass. And you had to think that you were going to get a chance to work that in also, that there was a strong possibility that people thought there would be far more points in that game.
Yep.
Than there were. So, the under in all Carolina games from now on, that would have to be a distinct possibility. Have you ever seen a guy more under wraps than Bryce Young was?
Yeah, 22 completions and barely broke 150 yards. Like that's impressive to do that.
Impossible. I mean, we had Chad check down Henny here.
Yep.
For a year where, if you trust your quarterback, ultimately will, which Bryce Young did. So that was interesting. All right, we got to run. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thanks so much for joining us. The snowplow coming on in the field. That was the final thing. And the on your hands and knees, gods of gambling. And I'll leave you with this: don't fuck me, gods. That has been stuck on my mind. It forced me to research my previous lives, Lubie. I was a punch-drunk club fighter in a previous life. Maybe doing a little collecting, maybe doing a little bookmaking on the side. I believe, and if you think about that, why is it that you show certain instincts so early on in life that are characteristic of maybe something that, I'm very much getting like Aaron Rodgers. Just traveling on another dimension at this stage. All right, thanks, people, for tuning in. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, was a little nervous about the upcoming Clemson game with his Florida State Seminoles. In fact, is that helmet going to be a Clemson helmet after this weekend? It's in the background here. Well, we'll see you next time on the next edition. I'm Jeff DeForest on the Morning Briefing.